Hello and welcome to High Vibe Astrology. Apologies for the late publishing of this video, but I was at an event this past weekend and have had a lot going on. It was an Ascension event put on by a local chapter of Connecting Consciousness, which is an international organization founded by Simon Parkes and his wife, Becky. So I encourage anyone who's listening to go to connecting-consciousness.org. It's free to join, and there are many awakened souls who are part of that organization. And by being part of that organization, you can find out what is really going on in this world, the military operations that are happening behind the scenes to eradicate the lawfare, the weaponization of virtually every system on this planet. People are awakening, souls are awakening, and I bring this up because as I look at this chart for the Libra new moon solar eclipse, this is what I'm seeing. For those of you who are new, thank you for finding this channel. And if you're a regular, thank you for supporting this channel and contributing your positive energy. If you are new, I do want to explain that I read the chart as an expression of what is happening and unfolding in the collective. And in this chart, we have Capricorn rising and we have Pluto in the first house. Anything that appears in the first house is literally what is rising. It's an energy that is dawning upon the collective awareness, dawning upon the world. So with Pluto rising, this is things that are hidden coming to light, coming to the surface. Pluto is deeds that are done in the dark, and as an ancient ruler of Scorpio, represented by the phoenix, this represents energies that can be the extreme of what is most diabolical, or the phoenix, what is the purity of the soul coming out of a very dark period of time. And in the collective, this is what's happening for humanity. Now, the other planet that I will be talking about and have in the past talked about is the planet I assign to Scorpio as the third symbol. Sedna represents the eagle. So few astrologers talk about that third symbol, but it's really important. And the reason it's important in this chart is because we have Scorpio on the midheaven and Venus in Scorpio. Venus is the ruler of the South Node in Libra and this Libra new moon. The South Node represents the past energy. It's an end of a soul cycle. And in this chart, as it pertains to the collective, as one human family, we are closing out this soul cycle, the low vibe of Libra, which would be to make everything okay for everyone else, to flip-flop between two sides of an argument or debate, two sides of politicking, two sides of fill in the blank, whatever that might be for you, and not making a decision one way or another to move forward. That's why Aries on the opposite end of Libra is so very important. The North Node is always looked at through a positive lens because it is our North Star. It is the compass calling us forward for greater soul fulfillment. It's the new soul cycle, which we need to express right now. And we are finishing up this axis between Libra and Aries. So in January, the North Node will shift from Aries to Pisces. And I will touch upon that a little bit later. But this soul cycle we are finishing up is this addiction to people pleasing. We've been indoctrinated in a way of being that seeks to cater to a particular side over another. Eclipses always intensify the lunar cycle and intensify by eclipsing out what no longer serves the highest vibration of where humanity is heading. What is literally closing out is a soul cycle in the collective where we have been so far out of balance by tipping the scales in favor of one direction And I see this new moon, this Libra new moon, as truly balancing the scales. With the North Node in Aries, this means that what has been weaponized against the innocent, what has been used as a weapon to perpetuate one voice over another, is now being brought back into balance. So we're going to look at the ruler of the Aries North Node, Mars. But first, I would like to look at the ruler of the South Node as well as the Libra new moon. Venus is in the sign of Scorpio in the 10th house. So Scorpio on the midheaven means that many, many things that have been hidden, that have been tipping the scales of Libra in one direction in favor of what I consider to be the diabolical extreme of Scorpio, where there has been little to no regard for life. Atrocities that have been committed are now being brought into public awareness. That's the midheaven. It can no longer be kept under wraps. And Venus in Scorpio is like a laser beam, a penetrating gaze of love for humanity and love of harmony. That's what Venus stands for, peace and prosperity. But Venus in Scorpio is using that energy of love to pierce through the lies that have kept humanity in favor of one side over another. Those scales are absolutely being brought back into justice, fairness, equality for all. And in the name of law, Libra is the sign that has to do with our judicial system. And many, many things about our judicial system have been weaponized against what constitutes true fairness and equality in the court system. Those things are being brought to light as well. And as I said, with Pluto in the first house, it is finishing up its tour of Capricorn. Every single system, whether it is the government, education, our medical system, higher court system, all of these things are on the front burner now, as opposed to working behind the scenes and pulling the puppet strings. The good thing about this Venus in Scorpio is that it is forming a trine to Mars, the ruler of the North Node. And this is a wonderful omen for what is happening, because this means that we are truly coming back into balance. All of the past wrongs are being corrected. Mars, as the ruler of that North Node in Aries, is in the sign of Cancer. Cancer rules this new moon, and Cancer is the sign of protecting the innocent and vulnerable. So Mars, as the patriot, warrior, and spiritual warrior, going into battle against these forces that have exploited the vulnerable and innocent, whether it's through the court system or through any other system, these things are now coming back into balance. Now, North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces is an omen for what we're moving into when the North Node shifts into Pisces in January. As I said in the last video, we are flushing out all of the psychic pollution, the subconscious pollution of this indoctrination in a system that does not support sacred law, all life on this planet, all the subliminal ways that we have been taught to cater to one specific way of being instead of truly respecting all forms of life. That is what is changing. The innocence that has been enslaved, exploited, victimized. I cannot answer any more than the rest of us can answer the question of why there has been so much suffering on the part of the innocent and vulnerable. But that time is coming to an end. That is what I see in this chart. The scales of justice being corrected. because they have been out of balance for thousands of years. And there have always been victims of violence that should never have taken place on this earth. But it has been here, and it is now being flushed out. I can't ignore the fact that one of the ways that we are going to be able to right the wrongs and correct the balance has to do with the third symbol of Scorpio. We've talked about Mars in Cancer, we've talked about Pluto in Capricorn, and now I want to turn our attention to Sedna in Gemini. What I'm seeing with Sedna in Gemini, the dispositor of which is Mercury, conjunct this very new moon in Libra, solar eclipse, Mercury plays a really important role in us righting the wrongs that have been done in the past and giving ourselves a voice that we never gave ourselves permission to speak in the past, which is, I believe, one of the reasons that we got into this mess in the first place, because we wanted to keep the peace instead of creating the inner peace, which is following the inner voice and giving it expression. Remember that Sedna represents sacred law. And if you feel, as I do, that it represents the third symbol of Scorpio, the eagle, this enables us to transcend from the perpetual death and rebirth to actually ascend or transcend the trauma, transcend the back and forth of the Libra scales this way, that way, in an extreme, instead of staying centered. How we stay centered is by going within our own heart center and speaking our truth without shoving it down someone else's throat, allowing them to also speak their truth from the heart. There is space for all of it and all of us under sacred law. So the Libra scales are representing human law, and the imbalance that we have been experiencing is because unscrupulous humans have placed their hand on the scales, tipping it in one direction. And now we, as souls, are being called upon to speak our truth from the heart and right the scales of justice again. Sedna, as the eagle, is encouraging us to transform human law into sacred law, where all voices get a chance to be represented, and to cease this abuse of all life forms across the globe and maintain Gaia's balance, allow Gaia to thrive so that we can thrive. That's what I see in this chart. That's how I see our story as collective humanity moving forward. So I think I will leave it there. Thank you for being here, for tuning in. Please stay tuned for the frequencies that follow, and I will be back soon with the Aries full moon. Bye for now.